Hello, everybody. It's Dr. Stuart Alan Swerdlow.
And Janet Diane Moya Swerdlow.
And this is the Expansions News Podcast for the middle of October 2018. And it's gotten very chilly outside.
I have long sleeves on, but you don't.
Well, it's because my hormones, I'm getting hot flashes. And so my breasts are really sore.
And they need to know this.
Yeah, so I had to wear something loose. And
yeah, well, I guess you're getting close to another birthday.
Oh, actually, that's correct. Just 3 more weeks,
yeah.
And I will be having... So actually, those of you living overseas that wish to send a gift by the mail, it should send it very soon because it could take a couple of weeks to get here, especially with immigration and customs and all that. Yes, or you could simply send me a ticket and I'll go to where you are and just pick it up myself. But yes, we had to turn the heat on, we had to take the plants in, and yesterday there was like sleet and snowflakes coming down here and there.
I'm going to have to start making a pot of soup soon.
Yes, pot of something.
Yeah.
But let's talk turkey. And I say that seriously because Andrew Brunson, the American pastor who was imprisoned and then placed under house arrest in Turkey, was finally released this past week and sentenced to time served. And he made a stop in Germany for a medical exam, returned to the United States, and is meeting with President Trump now. Although by the time they see it, it'll be over. A Turkish judge ruled to end the tense diplomatic standoff between the United States and Turkey that began after Brunson's October 2016 detention on terror and treason charges. Turkey targeted the 50-year-old pastor as part of a massive government crackdown following a failed coup months earlier. You remember that coup? Mm-hmm. I had been in Istanbul just right before in that spot, and I thought, this would be a good place for a shooting in the airport, and that's what happened. And he was sentenced to 3 years and 1 month in prison for the conviction. The prosecutors accused Brunson of acting on behalf of terror groups, specifically linking him to the outlawed Kurdish militants and a network led by the U.S.-based Turkish cleric Fethullah Gulen. You remember him. He owns that farm in Pennsylvania. And Gulen is accused of orchestrating the 2016 coup attempt, but we know that Erdogan did it himself to make him look good. But Brunson, now this is the part I really don't like, he handed over to authorities a list of Syrian refugees the congregation had helped and believed that Turkish officials would then have identified any terrorists. So he's basically turned over the people he helped. That wasn't very nice, was it?
Maybe what if there were terrorists in that group?
He said, and I quote, "We helped everyone, Kurds, Arabs, without showing any discrimination." So he must have been up to something, really.
Yeah, I don't know.
But this past August, the U.S. put very strong sanctions on Turkish officials and on goods from Turkey, which meant that the Turkish currency went into free fall, and they had a very bad economic experience. But this is not the end, because several Turkish American citizens, including a NASA scientist and several workers from the United States Embassy in Ankara, are still in prison because they are said to have connections to this Gulen group. So something's going on between Turkey, the United States, and Russia, and I am sure that Turkey would not have released him if the United States and Russia didn't promise Turkey something in exchange.
I guess we'll watch the news to find out.
Continuing on with Turkish stories, I'm sure by now all of you know about the renowned, I don't think he was that renowned, but renowned Saudi journalist, and here's the thing, Washington Post columnist Jamal Khashoggi, who walked into the Saudi consulate in Istanbul on October 2nd and never came out. And of course, there were reports that the Saudis sent a 15-man hit squad to the consulate to carry out the pre-planned torture and murder of Khashoggi, and they reportedly dismembered his body and smuggled his remains out of the building, all while Khashoggi's Turkish fiancée waited outside in her car. And here's the interesting thing. Khashoggi's family said, We never knew he had a fiance. See? And Turkish President Erdogan has pledged his personal involvement. Well, that's comforting. Now we'll get to the bottom of it. In addition, here's the interesting thing about Khashoggi is that in addition to being a journalist, he once served as an advisor to Saudi's intelligence chief. The plot thickens.
Definitely.
And of course, there are already strained relations between Turkey and Saudi Arabia because Turkey expressed support for the Arab Spring uprisings in 2011, and then Turkey sent troops to Qatar last year to show support of a diplomatic crisis between Saudi Arabia and Qatar. Remember, Saudi Arabia said they were going to dig a trench between the two countries, so make Qatar an island. No, they never did that, though. So here's the thing. Khashoggi published his work in the Washington Post. We know that the Washington Post is a CIA mouthpiece, never to be believed anything that's in there. So he was a CIA asset with the Washington Post. He knew something that the Saudis wanted to find out. And remember what Q said about Red October, all the guilty people are going to be exposed and maybe executed.
Did you read, though, that supposedly his torture was recorded on his phone?
Wristwatch. He had
So how do they get that then? Who has that now?
Yeah, that's the question. Who has that?
And what is on it?
And how do they know that it recorded it?
Right.
Because it went up into the cloud. See, it went up into the cloud. There's a lot more to this story that's being released to the news. I'm sure the Israelis and the Saudis had a lot to do with it. And that's okay, because this Khashoggi was up to bad things.
You think so?
Oh, I know. He worked for the Washington Post. That's all I need to know.
Yeah.
Remember who else came here from the Washington Post?
Who?
The creepo guy that came here with History Channel.
Oh.
Yeah, to refresh your memory. Washington Post they should all be executed in there. Anyway, right next door to Turkey, Bulgaria, another high-profile journalist, deaf. And she was a Bulgarian journalist and TV personality who was in the midst of deep investigation into alleged corruption involving EU funds, and she was found murdered in the Bulgarian town of, get this, Rus. And she's 30 years old. Her name was Victoria Marinova. She was found in a local park last week, and she was raped and murdered. And Bulgarian media quickly suggested it was linked to her EU investigations. I would say so. She appeared to have been beaten, raped, and strangled to death in a crime described as exceptionally brutal. So the EU is even worse than the United States. And not only that, what else has happened in the EU recently? Maltese investigative journalist Daphne Caruana Galizia was killed in a car bomb last October. She worked on the so-called Panama Papers, you might remember that, which were leaked documents that revealed financial information about the offshore accounts of high-profile officials. Also, Slovakian investigative journalist Jan Kuciak and his girlfriend were shot to death in February, and he was investigating EU tax fraud. And Swedish freelance journalist Kim Wall was murdered in a gruesome case in Denmark last year by a Danish inventor, Peter Madsen. She was killed and mutilated after boarding Madsen's submarine to do an interview. She was beheaded.
I remember that.
So, it's dangerous to investigate the truth in the EU. The murderers will be brought to justice, as they will be here in the United States. Going on to related news as well, Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, is to meet with Vladimir Putin, the Russian president, for the first time since July because of the incident of the Russian plane being shot down, and they said Israel. Russia-Israel relations deteriorated sharply after that 17th of September downing of the Russian Ilyushin-20 spy plane, which 15 Russian crew members were killed because the Syrian air defense shot at them thinking they were shooting at Israelis, or so they say. And they will soon meet to discuss military coordination around Syria. Mr. Putin absolved Israel of responsibility over the plane incident, but warned not to allow such situations in the future. But for Israel, they are going to remove any Shia militancy in Syria, whether it's Lebanese, Iranian, or any other foreign person there that is against them. And Mr. Netanyahu has sworn to prevent Iran from deepening its military presence in Syria and using the country as a bridge to transfer Hezbollah weapons to Lebanon. And Israel, I think I mentioned this last week, since 2017 has made more than 200 airstrikes on Iranian military targets. So watch, people, for a major change in Iran's government. And there is a secret plan. I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to tell you.
The secret?
Lean forward. There is a secret plan between Israel, Russia, and Saudi Arabia to get rid of Iran and Syria governments. You didn't hear that from me.
To their government.
You didn't hear that from me. Janet said it. She was a ventriloquist. Another person to be eliminated.
More?
Guess who? Yes, Emmanuel Macron.
Oh, well, he's a person of interest.
Yes, who last year triumphantly defeated nationalist Marine Le Pen. I liked her. With a 66.1% vote of the youngest French president, and the wife is a pedophile. It was repeatedly cited as Europe's liberal ideal. Fast forward, things haven't quite planned out the way they expected. And guess what? He was a former Rothschild banker. Did you know that?
That I didn't know.
Yeah, he was a Rothschild banker. At the end of September, Macron was hit with the lowest ever approval rating as his popularity continues to tumble, with only 29% of French citizens saying they were satisfied with Mr. Macron. And he has a series of high-profile departures from his government and a summer scandal over the firing of his bodyguard. I didn't know about that one. The president was heavily criticized in September for telling an unemployed man he could easily get a job simply by crossing the street. There you go, and you can have some coffee and patois and whatever there. Anyway, the French economy is very bad. The voters are complaining that Macron is arrogant. He's French, hello.
They're all arrogant in France.
Out of touch, and that his labor reforms have benefited only the country's largest businesses. Well, duh, that's who set him up, the Rothschilds. And because if the European Union loses France, because the French are angry, something that Angela Merkel almost experienced, then they call it European experiment, is good as done. And, well, it should be. What did I say in the September class? What did the last name? Well, first, Emmanuel is the real name of Jesus. Macron. My crone, my old lady.
Oh, he's married to an old lady.
Duh, that's the whole point. His older wife is his handler. She set him up since he was a teenager for the Rothschilds. And his Rothschild connections mean that his days are now numbered. This next story I found absolutely hilarious if it wasn't true, but it is. It's actually scary, true, and hilarious. The United Nations released a statement earlier this week that revealed that UNESCO had partnered with the International Peace Foundation 6 months ago to study all religions of the world and find out which was the most peaceful amongst all of them. So after 6 months of rigorous study and analysis, they said, we have concluded that Islam is the most peaceful religion. I mean, this is beyond, I was cracked up laughing, like, this got to be a joke story.
How much money did they spend to come to this
conclusion? Seriously, probably not a dime. They were paid to do it.
Yeah, so as I said, it had to be funded.
Yeah, he said, they said, they were asked about the terror attacks carried out in the name of Islam, including the recent one in Dhaka and Baghdad, and the UNESCO official denied that it had anything to do with Islam. Even though it was done by Islamic radicals.
So maybe...
And get this. He says, terror has no religion. Islam means peace. No, bozo. Islam means surrender. It means we attack you and you surrender. Islam means, in Arabic, surrender, not peace. Yes. So here's the deal. To document this official recognition, UNESCO will issue certificates to interested Muslim bodies which can display them at various places like madrasas, which are their religious schools, Islamic study centers, mosques, halal stores, slaughterhouses, etc.
What's a certificate going to say?
Yeah, it's going to be like a TripAdvisor, like 5 stars for us. So they're going to have like an Islamic peace sign on their slaughterhouses. And this is obviously a propaganda marketing play by Islamists.
Sense.
But the worst of all.
More?
Yeah. The Dalai Lama, you know how brilliant he is reported to have asked other religions to learn from Islam and try to be as non-violent and compassionate as that religion of peace. So, Mr. Lama, really, let's look at Hamas, ISIS, Hezbollah, PLO, Boko Haram, etc. Peace? I don't think so, Dalai. And you know what? Now, you deserve not to be in Tibet.
No, not only that, but we do know that he is a program.
Oh, he's set up by the
figurehead.
Illuminati.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he's obviously just continuing on with this agenda.
In Tibet, I actually went to his palace and I actually was in his bedroom.
Yeah.
I won't tell you what I did there. But he wasn't there. Yeah, he had to be in Dharamsala in India. Another thing. Christopher Columbus, and we just had Columbus Day here in the United States. That history about it is completely wrong. You know, there's been stated many times that Christopher Columbus killed the Indians and spread disease and blah, and a lot of that happened, but that was his crew. He was actually, information that I've revealed recently, he was a knight related to the Templars, and he was trying to do something good. But the crew were criminals released from prison, and they did bad, and he couldn't control them. And he regretted that, and he wrote about that in his logs. So we can't blame Christopher Columbus. It was really the crew that did all this. And there is a book by a man named Louis Bertrand, and it was actually written in 1934, and it's called The History of Spain. And it tells all this information. Of course, 1934 was before they changed history. So this is accurate information, and it talks about why Christopher Columbus went on his voyages in the 1490s. And it was because of what the Islamic nations were doing. According to this information, the jihad from the 1400s committed massacres, pillage, mass enslavement, and deportation, and the grinding imposition of Sharia by Spain's various pious Muslim conquerors and rulers. It also says that the armies of the Caliph, the Arab, and the Berber chieftain had massacred Christians, burned them out, and pillaged them to the best of their ability, decimated and humiliated them, and nevertheless they continued to exist, the Christians, in the best way possible. And it said that Christians of the north of Spain were continually at war with their Muslim neighbors. And the Caliph, Abd el-Rahman, said that in a campaign against the Christians, that whenever a Christian retreat was to be found in the neighborhood, to carry destruction there and deliver the surrounding countryside to incendiarism, so that Christian territory was ravaged by flames to the extent often for square miles. And the same Caliph laid siege to the city of Toledo, where he said, destroying everything in the rich plain which surrounded the town. And he said that he would commit devastation, cutting down the trees, pillaging, ruining the villages, destroying all the crops, and not one stone was left upon another. 10 years later, there was an expulsion. The Christians were deported to Morocco. Did you know that?
I think so.
They were deported to Morocco en masse. Their cities, whole districts depopulated by massacres and proscriptions. The Sultan Yusuf never failed to repeat at every one of his audiences to rid the Iberian Peninsula of Christians, and he said that is their sole purpose. And he repopulated the south of Spain by filling it with Africans and Arabs. Christopher Columbus had an objective to reach the East Indies, not the Caribbean, but the East Indians, so that he could convince the great Khan of Asia to attack the Middle East from the east. So the Europeans would attack from the west, the Asians from the east, and they would surround the Holy Land and get rid of these caliphates and Islamic jihad people once and for all. So, peaceful religion, United Nations, Dalai Lama. Islam was violent since the day it began. I'm very sorry.
Weren't most religions
This is not
violent?
racism. This is not prejudice. This is a statement, matter-of-fact history. It is a violent religion, which I told you in the class was created by the Vatican. It's not even a legitimate religion. Okay, I won't get in trouble for that, I know. But here we go. Neuroscientists have a project called Brainnet. Did you hear that?
Mm-mm.
It's a multi-person, non-invasive, direct brain-to-brain interface for collaborative problem solving. It's from your homeland, University of Washington, and Carnegie Mellon University figured out a way to connect three brains still attached to their bodies and have the owners of said brains make collective choices without speaking to each other.
That sounds scary.
Yes, the team used electroencephalograms to record electric impulses from two human brains and then transcranial magnetic stimulation,
I don't like that.
called TMS, to deliver the information to the third brain. And the end result is that it allowed all three human subjects to collaborate and solve Tetris problems using brain-to-brain communication.
I don't like that.
That's the Borg collective.
Something
That's
weird.
the Borg.
I don't like it.
Yeah, and the third person is the receiver via a TMS helmet with the ability to send flashes directly to their brains. I'll get one of the helmets for Christmas, I think.
I don't think so.
And as I say, 3 heads are better than 1. Now, prophecy, because we're doing a lot of religious things today. Ezekiel, as you know, is a key figure in the Bible. And in the Bible, he foresaw the Dead Sea flourishing into life, which is actually impossible due to its high salt content. But Israeli photojournalist Noah Bedain has reported sightings of marine life in small sinkholes around the Dead Sea, as well as vegetation growing. Photos released by the Dead Sea Revival Project show tiny fish swimming in the water that is reportedly highly salinated. And so the fish prove the water is anything but dead. It also reportedly is evidence of a biblical miracle coming true.
Which is what?
The Bible states that after the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, which was a nuclear weapon, as you know, the land was turned into a barren wasteland, including the Dead Sea. But the place that was cursed in biblical times, now here comes the Dead Sea, coming to life, where the water has receded, fulfilling prophecies from Ezekiel, who talked about the land flourishing and blooming when the Jews returned. So this is end-time prophecy, and is related to Third Temple of Jerusalem, which I'll be talking about in the January class. Now, guess what happened in Arkansas? Speaking of end-time stuff.
I don't know. I like Arkansas.
You do?
I do.
Well, you a hillbilly.
My family's connected to that area of the country.
You got teeth? Let me see teeth.
Let me see yours.
See, I'm not a hillbilly. For 40 minutes, a small hole in the ground sprayed 12-foot flames uncontrollably before finally coming to a halt. The hole opened up on private property in Midway, Arkansas about a month ago on September 17th and is stumping investigators.
How long did it spew flames?
40 minutes.
40 minutes.
The Baxter County judge, Mickey Pendergrass, told the Arkansas Democrat Gazette that he ruled out another odd explanation, Satan.
Really?
It wasn't Satan. But noting that the particularly suspicious fire eventually just stopped. It was drawing air from a lower elevation, and then it went out. But they said the hole didn't just open up suddenly. It's been around for at least 10 years.
No, I think I'd be going down and see what's in that hole.
Well, They couldn't find anything.
Unless they were afraid of Satan.
But the thing is, it's very close to the New Madrid fault line. And fires like this have also been reported in Louisiana, where they're also sinkholes opening up from salt domes that are collapsing underneath from the Gulf of Mexico and gas spewing up and causing flames. So I think it looks like the New Madrid fault line. Yeah,
that's very
kind of
odd.
delayed. And speaking of flames, Mount Etna, the volcano on the eastern shore of Sicily, is shifting towards the sea 2 to 3 centimeters each year. But for a 15-month period, nothing happened. But during an 8-day period in May 2017, Mount Etna's southeastern flank moved 4 centimeters to the east. That's a much larger movement than has been recorded on land. And they think that means that the volcano is collapsing under its own weight. And that it could cause a devastating tsunami when it collapses.
Where would that go? That tsunami.
All over the Mediterranean Sea. And speaking of devastation and Satan, the Pope's audience hall at the Vatican was designed to look exactly like a giant reptile inside and out. Did you know that?
Really?
When the Pope addresses an audience there, the effect is that he is speaking from the mouth of a giant reptile.
Really?
The pictures are on the link.
Really? Wow. I'll have to look at those.
When the building is viewed from the inside, the unmistakable resemblance to a reptile hits you like a ton of bricks.
Wow.
But it's more than that.
More?
Because just when you thought it couldn't get worse, right behind the Pope's throne, they installed a statue created by Pericle Fazzini in 1977 that shows Jesus Christ rising up from an atomic apocalypse.
I've seen that statue.
But if you look closely at the top of the head of Jesus, Jesus is turning into a reptile. Yes, it's basically the Battle of Armageddon at the Second Coming. The statue by Fazzini is a mockingly entitled The Resurrection, which actually shows Jesus Christ becoming a reptile, thus rewriting biblical prophecy made by God that Satan loses to Jesus at the Second Coming. And guess what? The exact height of the statue is 66 feet.
And when he made the statue, he made it to look like a reptile.
Yes, you can see it on the picture.
I've seen it.
So according to this information, now you figured out where Satan's seat is, who it is that sits on the seat, and what organization he is a leader of. Do I have to spell it out?
In our book, True World History, we talk about 666 in here in the Pope. If you haven't read this book, this is very interesting. In fact, when they translate it into, I won't mention which countries.
Eastern European country.
Yeah.
Any references about that had to be removed,
Yes.
so it wouldn't insult the Pope.
Yeah, so, but it's in this book, True World History, about the Pope. So very interesting stuff. All right.
On to you.
All right, and I have just a few stories. And some of them are just follow-ups on things that we talked about before. But I just want to remind you that Kanye West...
No, Ye. Remember Ye?
Well, the weird thing is he said he's going to be called Ye, but everybody's still calling him Kanye. So I'll just go ahead and say Kanye so people know who Kanye is.
Okay, Ye.
So Kanye did meet with President Trump, and he wanted to discuss topics like prison reform, urban revitalization, and so forth. And I guess he kind of did. I did listen to the interview, I did look at the transcript, and it was very odd.
What did you think of it?
It was very odd.
Was it vulgar?
Well, he did use one expletive.
Only one?
That, as far as I can tell from the transcript, which of course that's what everybody focused on.
Right.
But I just think it's very interesting that they're using him as generally who's a programming icon to be connected to the president. So it's like they're trying to bring in another group of people and hook it into the White House. And I don't exactly know how that's going to play out yet. Because
Well, CNN trashes anything that the White House does, and they trash Kanye, they trash the president, and that Don Lemon from CNN, who was the brains of a flea, said nasty things about it, and I think that he should be removed from CNN.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that. But anyway, Kim Kardashian, his wife, also went and talked to Trump about prison reform. Now, what's interesting to me is that these people are parading around all over the internet, like gathering up other people. Because Kim Kardashian, what is she, Armenian? Is that correct?
Yes, well, the
Kinda.
Armenians aren't happy about that.
Yeah, but that's what she is. And she's not really a great role model for people.
No.
So why is this connection going? So I'm having to think, well, maybe they're trying to bring that group in to the president, so to speak.
Armenians with big butts?
Well, or whoever the followers, because at one point they called Kanye West and Kim Kardashian American royalty.
But that's what we are.
I'm just telling you. So it's all very interesting. It's just part of the show, so watch it. But the one thing he did make a big deal out of was his Make America Great hat.
Right.
He said he made him feel like Superman, and that Superman was his favorite superhero. And then he said to Trump, "You made a Superman cape for me." So I thought that was kind of an odd thing. So I don't know if he meant the hat was his cape. I'm not sure.
Maybe he had a little too much red wine before the meeting.
So anyway, it was all kind of interesting, but it was a huge gathering of people, and of course Ivanka was there with her husband, and a lot of reporters, and it was just very odd. So I'm just going to leave it at that, and we just kind of watch what happens. And then you probably heard about UN Ambassador Nikki Haley leaving the administration at the end of the year. Now, believe it or not, I don't know if you realize this or people realize this, but she used to be the South Carolina governor. And it said she was an unusual pick to be a UN envoy because she did not really have a lot of experience with international politics.
Right, South Carolina, they don't even know that there are other countries.
So she said, it was guessed that maybe she was going to run for president in 2020, but she said no, she was going to be a Trump supporter.
And she would campaign for him.
So therefore, the president went on to say if she ever wants to come back, he'll find a place for her. But then they started talking about Ivanka Trump, the daughter, taking her place.
Yeah, not going to happen.
No, Ivanka wrote that she wasn't going to do that. But then the next thing that went on was actor Michael Ian Black said that Trump will make Ivanka an ambassador, and then he'll run her as his vice president in 2020.
No, they cannot do that. These entertainers that want to get involved in politics, they're pretty much, they have the education of a fourth grade person. They have no idea what politics are, economics, nothing. They should just stick to reading their scripts and not get involved in politics.
Well, they said Trump said she would be great at it, but then he might be accused of nepotism.
Not accused, that would be nepotism.
Anyway,
so he's not going to do that.
We'll see what happens. But I just think it's interesting. Ivanka keeps being, she's popping up. She was with the meeting with Kanye West. She's still being told she's going to be this, that, and the other thing. So I don't exactly understand what her job is. And the other thing they're making a big deal out of is she wears a lot of white pantsuits.
So?
That's supposed to be a signal that you're supporting certain things. So.
Well, it's white, so it has to be a good thing, right?
Well, we don't know. So,
Just like Melania wore a white hat in Africa.
Right. So we don't really know. And speaking of Africa, did you know that South Africa's Zulu nations is actually joining the white farmers in the fight against government land seizures?
Because they know it's wrong.
Well, excuse me, the Zulu king actually spoke out and said he supported the country's white farmers because he said without them, the Zulu nation would not have any food.
That's right, because the Zulus are not farmers.
And most of those people are not.
They should not be giving the farms to these tribal people because they don't know how to use them.
Exactly. And he says already that that's a problem because once the government started talking about this, a lot of the farmers put their tools down. He says there is no food now in South Africa.
It serves them right.
Well, the Zulus are upset about it.
Well, then let's change the government.
They're working on that. In fact, it said the Zulus are the largest ethnic group in South Africa with an estimated 10 to 12 million people. But it said the group is approximately 1/5 of the country's population, and its opinion is very, very important.
That should be.
And the Zulu king said that anybody who wants to be voted for and elected by us needs to come and talk to them and commit that they will not touch this land. And they really have no political power, but they're still respected, even in the Constitution, as traditional leaders. And so the Zulu king actually is challenging the president to come and meet with him. He says, I will not go to the president must come here and talk to me. So these are the things we're telling you about. The black people in South Africa are not farmers, and there is a reason why these people are there farming who are white, and they need to keep their land and help everybody will benefit.
And I said this last time, and I got in trouble for it.
You get in trouble every time you say it.
But it was the truth. You know what? People don't want to hear the truth because it doesn't fit into their little box of what the thing should be. The truth is truth, whether it sounds nice or not. That's the truth. The white farmers were there first. There were no black people there. They came afterwards.
Right. Anyway, so I think that's a very interesting story. So we'll see what continues to develop in South Africa. Meantime, in Australia, that's their telescopes that are located there apparently say the researchers are telling us that their radio telescopes have nearly doubled the number of the known fast radio bursts, which are bright flashes of radio waves that make their way to Earth from deep space. Fast radio bursts are one of the most mysterious phenomena in the universe, apparently. That this one blast is equivalent to the amount of energy released by the sun in 80 years.
No.
But what these blasts, they just see them for just a moment, and some scientists are suggesting that they are being emitted by an extraterrestrial intelligence.
Aha.
Harvard University Science suggested last year that these leaks could be from vast transmitters that are usually shooting at light sail ships to push them across the universe.
Wow.
So using this new technology of the Australia Square Kilometer Array Pathfinder, they've also proved that fast radio bursts are coming from the other side of the universe rather than from our own galactic
It
neighborhood.
could be my people finally trying to communicate
helping
with me.
us. And then in New York City, back down to earth, there's a controversial startup that wants to charge a minimum, they haven't really completed their final thing, but a minimum of $8,000 to fill your veins with the blood of young people. They want to do this.
So wait, they're going to kill young people and then...
No, the blood young people are going to donate it, Silly.
Oh.
They're going to donate it. So apparently a Stanford graduate named Jesse Karmazin completed a year of clinical trials trying to assess the benefits of young blood transfusions. And he claims that blood is the next big government-approved drug.
Really?
And he hopes that the procedure will conquer aging by rejuvenating the body's organs. Now, blood transfusions are already approved by FDA, Food and Drug Administration here in the U.S., so it says he already has the green light to continue this as an off-label treatment. And since they put up their website recently, they already have 100 inquiries on how to get it.
Only 100?
Only 100. Now, well, the trial, to be in the trial, the people actually had to pay $8,000. So therefore, if they actually do this commercially, they haven't decided on what they're going to charge other people who are not in the trial.
It's not going to work.
Well, apparently that's what the science is unclear, and a lot of people are saying there's no clinical evidence, and that you're abusing people's trust and the public's excitement, and they're claiming that, like you said, that it's probably not going to work.
For like 10% of that, I could teach people how to stop aging just using this.
Yeah, and we have those rejuvenation exercises, and a lot of these, the Hyperspace Helper, Hyperspace Plus, Healing Archetypes and Symbols. So there's a lot of work that you can do with your mind, so you don't have to pay $8,000.
Those of you that have a mind.
Yeah, so you can get a book, and we do actually mentoring packages now. We don't do just one-on-one consultations, one-time shots. It's just for the serious person. We have mentoring packages and a wide variety of consultations that you can partake in, and you can learn to do this yourself as well.
You could also be on mental case.
There you go. And of course, we have our webinar, Self-Healing Group webinar called Affirming You, where we're teaching you how to deal and learn about your own mind. We have so far been discussing anger issues and abandonment issues and clutter of the mind and how it's all related and what you can do about it. So it's a very fascinating series. Our next class is that's ongoing, but you can join at any time, but by the month. So October's already in progress. We have a few openings yet for November if you want to join us. To go contact the website, and then
Well, we may have some Zoom lectures this month and next month to be confirmed. Well, I do it for Albuquerque.
okay, that's the Stargate to the Cosmos,
Yeah.
right? Okay, so but you have to go to their website to get that information.
And then next month, maybe Madison, Wisconsin.
We're not sure,
Not
so I
sure.
don't like to announce things till they're sure.
Well, I do because
I know
there's
you
energy
do.
in it.
Well, no.
And then, of course, I was invited to Cuba in December. Still waiting for that details. And then the January class.
Yeah, January class is the biggest one that we have of the year. If you want to be in our Oversoul Mastermind group, that's where you have your own private forum, and we help you with a lot of deep things, deeper than what's on our regular membership. You do have to take the January class, And I will tell you, it's already filling up.
It's filled pretty much.
Well, we still have 3 or 4 spots. So, but September was full. January is getting close. If you're interested in that January class, you need to sign up right away.
Yeah.
And of course, keep on the back of your mind, we are still working on our Italy trip next summer of 2019. We're aiming toward the end of June, first part of July. So watch our website for that. So we always have a lot of things going on where you can meet us anywhere in the world. And I will tell you, we're having a lot of interest on the Little Fluff series. This, like I told you, is not only for children for the holidays, but it also has to do if you do not speak English as a first language. This has some very basic concepts in here that will help you understand. And I know when I was studying Italian, I used a lot of children's books to help me as well. I'm still studying it, but it has helped quite a bit.
President Bush used to read children's books.
Yeah. And the White Owl Legends. Again, it's a great holiday gift about it's Native American information that was translated by Stuart.
Who's he?
I don't know. Or I meant Steve.
Oh, Steve, yeah.
Steve. So this is a fascinating story and a great book. And of course, Decoding Your Life, basic information, universal law. This applies to everybody. I wrote this over 40 years ago, and it's still extremely applicable. And this one, the Hyperspace Helper. So if you're really new to our work, and you just want a couple of things to kind of get involved, and how you can see how you can help yourself, these two are great places to begin, as are if you're interested in history. This one of our best sellers, True World History. Blue Blood, True Blood is like a classic now. Everybody's got that. And of course, Montauk Alien Connection is your own personal autobiography, which does mention me from time to time.
It does. Oh.
Yeah, and Stuart says, I know you like this book. So this is a great coffee table one, a great one for gift giving as well.
Oh, that was a lot of stuff there.
Well, we have a lot of stuff, right? Be sure that you get a membership on our site. I would tell you less than $1 a day. If you get the annual membership, it's about 53 cents a day. And so we've communicated with how much you're worth now, about 53 cents a day per person, right?
That's how much I'm worth.
Yeah. So anyway, we are on there every day with our membership. And so if you're interested in our work, that's a good way to get to know us a little better.
And also, if you want me to like you a little better, my birthday's 3 weeks away.
That's true. It's coming up very quickly.
Very fast.
So we will see you again soon.
Bye.
Bye.